guys, Hello Bella here. Today I'm going to be showing you how I use the Rustoleum tub and tile refinishing kit to refinish this old white bathtub where some of the blue is finally starting to show through. I did use this product about 4 to 5 years ago and it has held up really well, but as you can see down here, some of the blue is starting to peek back through. So I'm going to show you the steps that I take to refinish my bathtub, and I will say that this is something that has to be done every couple of years. It's not like a quick fix to a problem that will last a long time. It's more of a temporary solution. Before I did anything, I cleaned the tub with a couple different things. I started cleaning the tub with this Clorox cleaning gel, and then I used Comet, and then finally I used this Zep mold, stain, and mildew remover. And that is the first thing that you need to do before you do anything, is to clean the tub really well. And I cleaned it and actually just let it sit for a day, and then I came back and taped it. I also sanded the tub just now. You can do it by hand, but it's a lot easier if you have one of these electric sanders. These are like 30 bucks on Amazon, I believe, maybe 30 to 40 bucks, but definitely worth it if you're going to be doing a lot of projects. And I bought all of these sanding pads for only $10 on Amazon, and they come in a lot of different grit strengths, so that is really handy to have around. The kit itself costs around $30 to $40, just depending on where you get it. If you order it online, it might be a little bit more. Unfortunately, they were out of this kit at my local Home Depot and Lowe's, and it was more expensive on Amazon, so I wound up ordering it from homedepot.com. I'm going to be using this small rolling brush to do the paint job here. I think that it will be relatively easy to do it with this. What I plan on doing is, obviously I'm going to start from the inside of the tub and then work my way out. I'm going to be paying special attention to this section down here because it is the most worn, and I'm probably actually going to put a couple of coats on. I heard someone else say that they actually went ahead and put like 6 coats on near the drain because that part is the first part that usually starts to wear out. I've still got to wipe all of that dust away with my tack cloth. Tack cloth is just something that you can use after you sand something, and all of the little particles and things will stick to it. So after you clean and after you sand and then wipe away with your tack cloth, the last step is going to be painting. But prepping the surface is the most important in my opinion, because if you are painting a surface that is dirty and that hasn't been sanded, the paint is not going to adhere to it as well, and that's going to leave you with flaws in your paint job. Here's my sander that I was talking about. It's a Black & Decker sander, and I went over this pretty quickly. Spent about 10 minutes getting a good, sanding on this, and then wiped over it with the tack cloth, and I could definitely see that I had roughed up the surface a little bit. I mean, the whole point of sanding is for you to give the paint something to adhere to. That way the paint sticks a little bit better, and it also removes like any imperfections or bubbles that you had from the last paint job. So I do recommend sanding if possible. There is a $5 sander that you can get at Walmart or Home Depot that's just a hand sander. Takes a little bit more time and a little bit more effort, but if you're trying to do this project on a budget, that is a great way to save a little bit of money. Alright guys, I'm done sanding. Probably going to get that tack cloth now and wipe all of this down, and probably let the tub chill for an hour or so just to kind of give that dust time to settle, then come back and wipe it off once more when I'm finished with that. Alright guys, so I've just wiped everything down with the tack cloth. So I've cleaned it, I've sanded it, I've wiped it down. And you can see here, just from sanding a little bit, I've got some of that old blue paint showing through. I'm not going to worry too much about that because I'm just going to be able to paint over it, but she's ready to go. One thing that I wanted to talk about is that this paint is not meant to be used over a long period of time. You really want to paint as quickly as possible and go ahead and get another coat on probably every hour to 2 hours. I'm planning on carving out probably about 6 hours of my day to sit home and do this. And I've got this little brush to fill in some of the spots that are a little bit more difficult to get to. One thing I did want to mention, guys, is that if you are doing like a whole shower, I highly recommend going ahead and buying 2 kits because, it's just not really enough. You can see here, if you have a shower like mine where the whole wall is that tile, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and get 2 kits of paint. Alright guys, it's the next day. I'm starting to paint. Just wanted to show you what it looks like. We've got the small can, and we're going to just go ahead and pour it into this bigger can here, and then we will mix that up and we'll be ready to paint. As you can see here, the texture is pretty thin, really milky right now. From what I've heard from people, as the time goes on with this paint, it does start to thicken up a little bit, but I think one of the main reasons for this thin texture is so that you can get a smooth coat, and you can do multiple coats if necessary, but I'm about to start the first coat, so I'll let you guys see how it looks. All right, guys, first coat is done. As you can see, it is really shiny. It's already looking a lot better. The first coat is really thin, so don't get worried if you don't get full coverage on that first coat. Really, on a tub, it's going to take 2 to 3 coats, I believe, to really do the job. You can see here on the bottom, I actually just did the first coat on this blue area, and some of this is still showing through quite a bit, so I think that that's going to take quite a bit of paint to actually cover up, but I did go ahead and get that covered, and I've got the edges here done. The hardest part was these brushes. The foam starts to disintegrate, so you have to switch out brushes pretty often, especially on those little handheld brush that I was using to do the edging with. What I'm using here as like a drop cloth is just an old shower curtain thing, so that covered up the floor pretty well. I've got a couple more of these little sponges that I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to be setting a timer for an hour and a half, and after that I'm going to come back and do another coat on this, and then I'll give you guys an update after that. Alright guys, the second coat is on, and that paint really started to thicken up. I could tell a big difference between the hour and a half that the paint has been setting out. My little foam brushes completely disintegrated. Thankfully, I was able to paint fast enough to get the edges done, but if you are doing this with those foam brushes, I would recommend just buying a whole pack of them because they disintegrate pretty quickly, or you can go with a really high quality bristle brush, but the problem with that is that even with the highest quality, I think that this is just some really tough paint. While I'm waiting on that coat to dry, I've got this hideous eyesore. This is an old vent that was in this bathroom, and I actually just took it out and looked behind it to make sure it wasn't really connected to anything, and it's cut off. But I'm going to be using some leftover paint from this project to go ahead and paint over this to just make it match the bathtub. And I've got another spot here I need to touch up. This is some blue paint that is just peeking through on the bathroom mirror here, so I'm going to be touching that up as well. Alright guys, I waited overnight to peel the tape off. I did wind up doing 3 coats on the tub, and I think that 3 coats was a good amount. I've got a full coverage, and I don't see any of those old blue spots peeking through. I don't know why this is like so satisfying to me, but oh my gosh, it looks so good. It looks so much better. Alright guys, so here is the final look of the bathtub that has been refinished, and I do realize that I painted a white bathtub white, so it's really not going to be that big of a difference to you guys on camera, but to me it's a huge difference. It looks so clean in here now. Like honestly, it looks the cleanest it's looked probably since we bought the house and did this the first time. I really love the shiny look of it. I did go ahead and paint that drain, but I'm planning on adding one of those drain covers that catches hair and stuff, so I don't think that's really going to be visible at all. And one of the areas that I think that I maybe could have done a better job taping up over here, because I got a little bit of paint on this, so I'm gonna have to get that, scrape that off somehow. For an amateur project, this went over really well. I've never used this product before, so I really am happy with the results. And I did go ahead and paint this ugly grate here, so I guess I'm gonna go ahead and take the tape off and see what that looks like. It couldn't have been worse than before, because I mean, it was just an old rusty grate that serves no purpose at all. The paint on this actually turned out pretty good, considering that it was rusted and flaking off in some places, and this paint is not made for that. I probably could have used spray paint, but I just, you know, it was a big mess, and I was already making a mess in here, so I figured I'll just slap some paint on there, that way they'll match. Now my OCD problem is that this white no longer matches this white, and there's really no way to correct that besides repainting all of it like now, because the reason it's a little bit different is just because it's, you know, kind of faded over time. And remember when I told you this area was blue at one point, so trying to cover up that blue is just an ongoing thing. Eventually I may do the edges again. I think I could just spend a day doing the edges and it wouldn't be horrible. You gotta pick your battles with your remodel, but overall I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I think that a beginner could definitely do this project. Just make sure that you do like the proper prep work, make sure you have all the supplies that you need before you start the project, and honestly get more brushes than you think you need, because these brushes just did not hold up well. They were disintegrating at a rate that I just could not even believe. That paint is really harsh paint, and I think that's one of the reasons why it stays on so well. I do think that I'll get a good 3 to 5 years out of this paint job, and that's good enough for me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Comment if you have used this product before or if you plan on using the product. I will catch you guys in the next video.